When your wife, the senator, finally gave that speech on that Saturday in June, I was there, watched you a little bit, saw your face, kind of looked like you'd been crying.
I hadn't been crying, I just was very proud of her. She has always been a great public servant, but she became a great political leader in this campaign. There is a big difference between being a great public servant and a great political leader. I thought she was magnificent that day. I was really proud of her. I still am.
It's been about 8 weeks. Your friends tell us that you're angry.
I'm not. And I never was mad at Senator Obama. I think everybody's got a right to run for president that qualifies under the Constitution. And I would be the last person to ever begrudge anybody their ambition. And he was a superbly gifted candidate in this election and had a great operation. They thought this thing through. And it's a contact sport. And, you know, he hit her hard a couple of times, and they hit us a few times, and weeks before she ever responded in kind. The only thing I ever got mad about was people in your line of work pretending that she had somehow started the negative stuff. It's a contact sport.
I'm used to taking the incoming fire. I've taken it for 16 years. But when you get into this arena, you can't expect to have a hands-off attitude about your record. The bottom
Hillary,
line.
I oppose that bill, and you know I do.
It was an amazing election. We never had one quite like it. Never had one that close. Never had one that was, you know, that kind of shook out the way it did. It was in fast, for, you know, people would be studying that thing for years and years and years.
Well, people are already studying it, and a lot of people, including your supporters, your donors, say that they blame you, at least in part, for her loss. I know you've heard this.
No.
Do you blame yourself at all?
I've heard it from the press. And I will not comment on this because it interferes with the issue, which is who should be elected in November. I made hundreds and hundreds of speeches, Kate. I bragged on Senator Obama hundreds of times. Now, I will be glad, as soon as this election is over in January, to have this conversation with you and everybody else. I have very strong feelings about it.
But I live out here. I live out here
it's bad for him to go in the fact-based world. Well, first of all, you say, I don't like this kind of modern reporting that says, so-and-so anonymous says this, you know, they all say this.
Jim Cleburn, not anonymous. New York Times came out.
Not my supporter. Jim Cleburn.
Long friend of yours, longtime friend.
Used to be. He is not he was not Hillary's supporter. Never. Not ever, not for a day.
He said you lost a lot of African-American support.
No. The people who were...
He said you severely damaged your standing with African-Americans.
Yeah, that may be. By the time he got through working on it, that was probably true. But that's not the same thing. You said I hurt her.
I said your supporters are saying.
No, you said my supporters, and then you cited Jim Cleburn.
I take your point.
You did.
But there are supporters of yours.
All right, here's what you can do, since I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Go get yourself a map. Look where I went, and look what the vote was. Look at Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky,
you helped in a
Western
lot of places?
North Carolina. Yes.
Rural places?
No, not just rural places. Cities, Indiana, go check. So I got bad press. Why? Because I told the truth. That there was a different standard applied to the finest candidate I ever supported.
Pretty simple question. And maybe you don't want to answer it right now, and I respect that fully, but if you want to answer it, do you personally have any regrets about what you did campaigning for your wife?
But yes, but not the ones you think. And it would be counterproductive for me to talk about. There are things that I wish I'd urged her to do, things I wish I had said, things I wish I hadn't said. But I am not a racist. I never made a racist comment, and I didn't attack him personally.
Clinton insists the hard-fought primary season made Barack Obama a stronger candidate.
Is he ready to be president?
You could argue that no one's ever ready to be president. I mean, I certainly learned a lot about the job in the first year. You could argue that even if you've been vice president for 8 years, that no one can ever be fully ready for the pressures of the office, and that everyone learns something and something different. You could argue that. He's shown a keen strategic sense in his ability to run an effective campaign. He's clearly can inspire and motivate people and energize them, which is a very important part of being president. And he's smart as a whip, so there's nothing he can't learn.
He won't comment on whether he thinks his wife ought to be Obama's running mate.
It's up to him. It's none of my business. This is my life now.
His life now is his foundation. All weekend long, he and Chelsea visited projects, from the mud huts that community health care workers visit to fields planted with new crops. He in hiking boots and khakis, she in crop jackets and designer heels. Believe it or not, Bill Clinton said he was never looking forward to the idea of living in the White House again.
Look, I was honored to live there, and I was honored to do the job, and I loved every day of it. But I like what I'm doing now. And that's why I really admire how Hillary's handled this. You know, she went right back to work. You have to live in the moment. Time is passing. You can't make yesterday again. You have to live in the moment and go forward. And at least for people like us, what you do and whether people are better off when you quit than when you started is a lot more important than whether you navigate the prevailing storyline.
Mr. President, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us along on the trip.